I would just love to hear from you guys what the big concern is here. I mean, tell me why Jackson Smith and Jigba has question marks. Tell me why he isn't as good as advertised. Tell me why he might not be a really, really good NFL wide receiver and why he doesn't have such a high fantasy ceiling. I would just love to know. But before we get into it, please make sure you like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. We've got more content for you on our locals page, which is in the description. But let's get into this. Let's talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba, a very, in our opinion, an elite prospect coming out of Ohio State. Outproduces Garrett Wilson, outproduces Chris Olave. You guys know this. I don't have to keep telling you. Avery and I don't have to keep telling you. When are we going to stop making excuses for why Jackson Smith and Jigba was good? Like, we love to make excuses for why college prospects don't produce, but then we make excuses for why they do produce at an elite level. Explain. Like, this just doesn't make any sense to me. I get he got hurt this last year. Sure, that's a concern. His durability, it was one injury. It is a hamstring. He's young. He'll be fine. He'll be fully healthy coming into this season. In our eyes, Jackson Smith-Njigba is the wide receiver one in this class, and it's not particularly close. Yes, Quentin Johnson has a high ceiling. Yes, Addison is a good prospect, though he kind of fell a little bit in value after his combine performance. With JSN, you have no production questions. You have really no talent questions. Why is it such a concern that he's a slot receiver in college? Like, we don't have to compare him to Justin Jefferson for him to be an elite option going into the NFL. Why do we have to overcomplicate one of the simplest situations in terms of a wide receiver prospect right now? Like, what changed? Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. was really, really good last year. Just because he might be even better than JSN as a prospect in 2024 doesn't mean JSN is any less good. I don't want to beat the dead horse, so let's just go into some potential landing spots for JSN here in the NFL. First one is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, the passing volume isn't going to be insane there. However, that might change with the exit of Greg Roman in that offense. They may actually, let Lamar pass more. And Marquise Brown is gone. Rashad Bateman, I wouldn't say he's a bust. I wouldn't give up on Rashad Bateman at all, but I really don't think the competition is going to be enough in Baltimore, even with Mark Andrews, that it's going to impact JSN in any way. I think going there would be a fine landing spot for him, not the sexiest landing spot at all, but I think with him being primarily a slot receiver, he's going to get plenty of volume, and in PPR leagues, that's invaluable. Another landing spot is going to be the Giants. I think this is going to be very, very popular, as their receiving room is one of the worst in the NFL. Yes, they brought in Paris Campbell. I know a lot of people are excited about that. Take my word for it. Paris Campbell is not that exciting. He's a really nice asset to have, a very good NFL weapon, but in terms of fantasy and target share, he ain't taking anything away from you. So if JSN goes to the Giants, don't worry about who's there right now. JSN will be the alpha wide receiver, not Wandell, not Paris Campbell, not Sterling Shepard. None of those guys are going to take away from JSN. JSN will be the dominant wide receiver there if he goes to the Giants, and I just love that landing spot personally. Another one is going to be the New England Patriots. I know there's been a lot of buzz recently with DeAndre Hopkins potentially being traded there. Bill Belichick loves him. D-Hop's kind of feeding that gossip, if you will. I don't know if it's really realistic. I know they just brought in Juju Smith-Schuster, but if Jackson Smith-Njigba goes there, that's going to be another one that will be, I think, less popular in dynasty circles, where JSN could even fall in value because, I mean, let's be honest, New England has not done well in terms of developing receiver talent of recent, at least not ripping on the GOAT Bill Belichick or anything, but in terms of dynasty and fantasy production and dynasty value, they just haven't given us much. If JSN goes there, I think everything changes. It's not like there haven't been elite producing wide receivers in the past in New England under Belichick, and I think JSN going there as a slot receiver will be an easy target for Mac Jones, and I think he'll get plenty of opportunities there. I'm fine with that landing spot. Honestly, really like it. Another landing spot here for JSN is going to be the Chicago Bears. Well, I think it's a little less realistic that the Bears take a wide receiver at the 109, especially with the acquisition of DJ Moore. I do see it being a possibility. They could take him there. With Jackson Smith-Njigba going to Chicago, I really have mixed feelings about it. I don't think DJ Moore really impacts JSN's value or his production once he gets there. DJ Moore is not necessarily a target hog, and I don't think he will be in that Bears offense. I don't love that Justin Fields just runs so much. That doesn't bode well for the receivers. You can argue the fact that he didn't have any receiving talent around him last year, which is, that's merited. That's true. However, I question what Justin Fields can do from a passing standpoint. How much volume can he really provide for JSN? I don't really question if he can or can't get it to JSN because, again, JSN is primarily slot. It's just not my favorite landing spot at all. One that I do like, though, is going to be the Chargers. Being paired with Justin Herbert, again, anyone being paired with Justin Herbert is going to be attractive in your dynasty leagues. With Keenan Allen struggling with injury last season, yes, they're bringing him back, but I don't really see him doing much, not because he's not as talented as he was even last year, but just because I question his ability to stay on the field because of the hamstring issues he struggled with at his age. That's definitely a concern for me. So I think JSN could be thrown in there and really produce right off the bat. I think it's a very possible landing spot for him with Mike Williams being that deep threat, and they can, get a speedster in a second or third round on top of getting Jackson Smith and Jigba in that short game. That would just be such a great situation for JSN to land in and really produce right off the bat immediately. And even with the potential of Austin Eckler leaving, that just opens up the possibility of more targets for the receivers in that offense. So really like that. Another one is going to be the Packers, another landing spot here. I see this being a very intriguing one. I'm not against it. I don't have a problem with it. I think this hurts, if anybody, it hurts Christian Watson, who was touchdown dependent last season anyways. You have Jordan Love, who we all assume is going to be the starter day one going into this year as the Packers are moving on from Rodgers and he's going to the Jets. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba would be a really nice cornerstone wide receiver to provide as a weapon for Jordan Love as he develops here as a starting QB in Green Bay. Finally, that's what they spent their first round pick on him for him to be in the future. So my personal ideal situation here, ideal landing spot for Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be the Giants. And to me, this just isn't really a question. Personally, I think Daniel Jones is more than capable of getting him the ball. Obviously, he has that long-term security with that new contract, and I just trust that coaching staff over anyone on this list, I guess, in terms of what they're going to do at the wide receiver position. I think Brian Daboll is going to develop talent better than anyone. And with Jackson Smith and Jigba, I mean, imagine what he can do in that offense in a receiver room that just doesn't have many pieces right now. That's my favorite landing spot. Would love to hear what you guys think about that. In terms of market value, I already said earlier, I think his market value could be hurt if he goes to New England. And I think it could be hurt if he goes to the Ravens, just because of the passing volume in Baltimore not being ideal and the fact that Mark Andrews is there and Bateman could still do some stuff going into this season. And then New England, just their history of receivers of recent, I think that's going to be a concern for a lot of people in Dynasty and could result in JSN's market value falling. I think JSN is that good that regardless of where he ends up, he's probably going to transcend and be a very high producing asset in whatever offense he lands in. So this is, again, one of those situations where I think regardless of where he goes, if he falls in terms of market value, I'll be buying him everywhere. I just am not understanding why JSN is all of a sudden not all he was cut out to be. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Would love to hear it. Again, thank you for bearing with me this week. It's been just me. Avery will be back next week. He was just on vacation, so I had to take the reins and go by myself this week. So as always, we appreciate you watching. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.